SBS Transit needs no further introduction, as most Singaporeans depend on its buses and train services for their daily commutes. Notably, it is the largest bus operator in Singapore, holding approximately 62% market share as of 31st December 2023. However, many may not be aware that SBS Transit is also listed on the Singapore Exchange. In today's video, I will be diving deeper into this public transport company, discussing how it generates its revenue, along with a review of its financial performance, debt profile, and dividend payouts over the last 5 years. I will also provide a technical analysis of SBS Transit's share price movements on a weekly time frame since 2021, highlighting key price levels to watch and the corresponding dividend yields based on its 2023 payout. Let's get started. SBS Transit generates its revenue from two main business segments: public transport services and other commercial services. Revenue from public transport services comes from its bus and rail operations under the bus contracting model. In this model, the government retains fair revenue and owns the infrastructure and operating assets, such as depots and buses. Bus operators like SBS Transit are contracted and paid to provide bus services through a competitive tendering process. By the end of 2023, SBS Transit operated 9 bus packages covering over 220 routes. It also runs Singapore's Northeast Line and the Sengkang and Punggol light rail transit systems. This segment accounted for approximately 96% of SBS Transit's total revenue in 2023. Revenue from other commercial services is generated through advertising on buses, trains, bus hubs, and train stations, as well as from rental income from shop spaces and road shows within the 78 bus hubs and train stations it manages. This segment contributed the remaining 4% of SBS Transit's total revenue in 2023. SBS Transit's financial year ends on 31st December. In this slide, you will find a summary of the bus operator's key financial performance over the last 5 years, from 2019 to 2023. A few key points to note here. The only year in which SBS Transit's revenue saw a year-on-year decline was in 2020, largely due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Revenue from public transport services dropped by 13.6%, driven by lower service fees from reduced fuel indexation, operated mileage, and rail ridership. Additionally, revenue from other commercial services plunged 43.3%, mainly due to reduced advertising on buses and trains, along with rental rebates given to tenants during the pandemic. In the other 4 years, revenue grew year on year, resulting in a compound annual growth rate of 1.1% over the 5-year period. SBS Transit's net profit declined in 2 years, in 2020 as well as in 2021. In 2020, the drop was due to lower revenue, while in 2021, rising operating costs, particularly higher fuel, electricity, and staff expenses, contributed to the decline. Finally, while net profit in 2023 showed slight improvement compared to the year before, it remained approximately 15% below the pre-pandemic levels seen in 2019. Another important aspect I consider when reviewing a company is its debt profile, with a preference for those that have minimal or no debt. Now, let's take a look at SBS Transit's debt profile over the last 5 years, which is presented in this slide. Except for the years 2019 and 2020, when the bus operator was in a net debt position, the following 3 years saw SBS Transit move into a net cash position, thanks to a significant increase in cash and cash equivalents alongside a steady decline in total borrowings. The management of SBS Transit declares a dividend payout to its shareholders twice a year. First, when it releases its results for the first half of the year, and again when it releases its results for the second half of the year. In this slide, you will find a summary of SBS Transit's dividend payout to shareholders over the last 5 years, along with its dividend payout ratio. except for the year 2020, when its dividend saw a year-on-year decline due to weaker financial performance. SBS Transit has consistently improved its dividend payout year-on-year for the other 4 years. However, it is important to note that the dividend payout in 2023 is still about 15% lower than in 2019, reflecting a similar decline in its net profit, which was also 15% lower in 2023 compared to 2019. Finally, looking at the dividend payout ratio, aside from 2020, the company has maintained a payout ratio of around 50%. Moving forward, if SBS Transit continues to improve its financial performance, we can expect its dividend payouts to rise accordingly. Let us take a look now at SBS Transit's share price movements on a weekly time frame since the beginning of 2021. As shown in the chart, the share price has steadily declined from around $3.20 in early 2021 to approximately $2.40 at present. I have highlighted some of the key price levels based on my technical analysis, along with the corresponding dividend yields, based on the dividend payout of 11.16 cents in 2023. To wrap things up, there are three key aspects I like about SBS Transit. First, it has a simple and straightforward business model. Second, it is in a defensive industry where, regardless of the economic situation, people will still need to rely on SBS buses for commuting. And third, the company has strengthened its net cash position in recent years. While its financial performance has improved since the COVID-19 pandemic, back in 2020, its net profit is still around 15% lower than the figure reported in 2019. The same trend applies to its dividend payout. One potential risk to be aware of is that SBS Transit operates through contracts awarded via a competitive tendering process. If future contracts are secured at less favorable rates, this could affect its dividend payouts in the subsequent years. Additionally, as these contracts are awarded by the Singapore government, we can expect the company's financial performance and dividend payouts to grow at a stable pace and not by huge jumps. That brings me to the end of my presentation on SBS Transit. For those of you unfamiliar with this Singapore listed company, I hope this presentation has given you a clearer understanding. If you found the presentation useful, I would greatly appreciate it if you could give this video a like and consider subscribing to this channel so you do not miss out on future content. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to talking to you again in the next video.